Hello and welcome to the Nonsense Chronicles. This is Doug Sashery, and always to my left,
Rob Mendiola,
I caught
the
you
lefty on the left.
I caught you off guard on that.
Yeah, I was checking levels real quick because I think you're a little low, but
I don't feel low.
We'll fix that.
Okay, we're just catching up, man.
We're good.
Yeah.
Go for it.
All right. Yeah, we are. Here
What is it today? Friday, man.
It's a Friday. It's
Nice.
a rare Friday podcast.
Yeah, rare Friday podcast.
Yeah, we don't have things to do. You play a gig tomorrow night,
Tomorrow, yeah.
and
So I'll practice a little bit and wrap up all my gear.
yeah, and I have no such responsibility whatsoever. But I am running around here and there this weekend. So
Make it home safe later.
yeah,
Sounds good.
that's all that matters.
What do we got going on today, Doug?
Today we are talking to a guy that years ago he was like me. We've been gamers for years, and the biggest game in the world to a lot of us, and everybody's hearing about the craze now. Everybody knows about it, especially if you've ever played it before, is EA's releasing their NCAA football today. I mean, they're releasing their NCAA football again, and it's coming soon. It's coming in July 13th. It's the 19th is the actual release date. But
Is this a video game?
it's a video game,
Okay.
man. That's all I had to say about it was the name, and people like their eyes spark up.
What console does that play on?
Xbox and the PlayStation.
Okay, so all of it.
But we're going to talk to somebody in a second. This guy that we're going to talk to today, back in the day, well, I'm going to introduce him first, I guess. It only be fair. His name is, welcome to the show, Victor Vasquez of FAIRDALE Kings. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. How about yourself?
Doing great, my friend. Doing great. But I was telling everybody is back in the day, we all went to this site, and Victor still, everybody still goes there, especially a lot of action since this game has come out. It was a forum called Operation Sports, and people would put their back in the they could not put roster names on the football players, but you could actually upload a list or type them in yourself. But you'd have people that would put together a list, and nobody did them better than Victor.
Oh, yeah?
And FAIRDALE Kings, his site was the name of it. That's his gamer tag, and it's also his site on YouTube. The guy has been great. His rosters were excellent. They always have been, and it's funny. Now we're coming back 11 years ago, and 11 years ago, I'm giving a little backdrop. The game was basically canceled because everybody knows Ed O'Bannon sued the NCAA, but before he even spoke, a guy named Sam Keller, who was a quarterback at Arizona State, and then he got injured, and a kid named Carpenter replaced him as quarterback, so he transferred when you had to sit out a year to transfer. He transferred to Nebraska and played. He sued because his likeness was being used. Now, there was no exact likeness. People would put the name on him, But, yeah, that cost all of us. The names became on the blacklist for one reason or another because none of us could play that game again. We lost that. We lost a college basketball game. It didn't exist anymore. And, Victor, if you can always tell a better story on this than I can, but if you got anything to add to that, tell me, man.
Well, for years, I did this for 12 years. I started editing rosters for the community in 2002 on the EA Sports NCAA Football 03 video game, which was the one that had Joey Harrington on the cover. Before that, I was editing for my friends and family. I was actually coaching high school football, so a lot of my former players would go off to college, and they would, take their memory cards with them. So I was kind of known in this, Kentucky, Ohio Valley region. But once we were able to start playing online and the Xbox came out, I kind of blew up. For 12 years, I was heavily involved in not only Operation Sports, but Madden Mania, NCAA Heaven. There's a whole array of gaming sites that I would frequent and became a little bit of a celebrity. I had on my website alone 25,000 plus members. I gave away these rosters for free, and it was like that because if I would have charged for the rosters, the NCAA and these schools and individual players could hold me liable and sue me. So the way that we were able to work around it was that I gave the rosters away for free, but if you wanted to make a donation,
yeah, that's right.
Donation was heavy. And Operation Sports, I could never, ever use the word donation. So anytime that my rosters were mentioned on Operation Sports, and Steve Noah's a great guy, the guy who runs that place founded it, and he's still involved with it. We still talk to this day. But, I could never put anything on there mentioning even a donation. So, people were kind of pushed to my website, which originally I had fkrosters.com and ran that site for about 3 or 4 years, and people could get their rosters there. And then I sold that site. And because the guy didn't make me sign a non-compete, I then started the next day after I sold the site for, several $1,000s.
Nice.
I started FAIRDALEKINGS.com and told all my old clientele, hey, go over here now. I'm on this site. And you guys can still get free rosters because the other guy was trying to sell them and he didn't care. I mean, he got hit with letters from the NCAA and he didn't care. But yeah, I mean, I was working with EA Sports. I'm not going to say, well, I guess I can say directly, just because I had several NDAs signed with them yearly. They would send me copies of the game early. I actually received some information directly from them, but with the NDAs and everything involved, I would get the game 10 days early, get the rosters, and by the time the game was officially released, everyone would have rosters who wanted to use them. If they were familiar with my work, or even some of the other roster makers, they could get on the game on day one and download the rosters, or if they sent me a memory card and mailed it to me, I would return that and they could do that. But as we got closer to, I guess it was 2013, you had O'Bannon and of course I think I mentioned it to Doug before, Sam Keller. He was the one who was really at the forefront of trying to litigate this, talking about, name, image, and likeness, and that he was on the game and he saw his name on the game and he didn't give anyone permission to use that, which really and truly that's a lie. It's a flat out lie, because when college athletes sign their scholarship, a part of it is that, they're going to use your image in photos and stuff like that. So they basically sign away their rights. And we were using those names because otherwise when you open up the game and try to play for the first time, it would just say like halfback number 12 or quarterback number 5. So I brought a little bit of life and flavor to the game and a little bit more realism. It allowed gamers to at least feel like they were playing with their actual favorite team. And the announcers would announce the names. So that was the other cool feature that was in play. So EA was kind of, towing the line without going over it. But then I was the one who was coming in after the fact and putting those names into the game.
Yeah, they knew the community would come together for it, and do it. And, there's some backstory before we even get into more about this game. I mean, there's so much about this game, but there was, okay, this is in the realm when, I mean, now I hear people talk about a hard copy, but I can't tell you the last disc I bought. Everything I get now is downloaded. But back in the day, Victor will tell you that people would start. There was a forum. There was a topic in the forum. Where can you find it? Who's selling it early? Like they would get it, and they would get. What was the penalty back in the day if they got caught selling it early?
It was a $10,000 fine, if
Wow.
not more.
Yeah, because they would ship
Yeah,
it to the
because you were
stores.
breaking the street date. Yeah, you were breaking the street date, and that was the big thing, was that the official release date was just that. It was the release date. No game was supposed to be played. I mean, there's times I had the game early, and Doug will, also verify this, that we'd have the game early, and you couldn't even get on the servers yet because they weren't prepared to have them up and ready, because
That's right.
the official release date might be July 15th, and we'd have the copy of the game on July 7th or something.
Yeah, that was like
8-9 days early.
It was 7 to 9 days early, I think, usually when that would come in, because they would ship them into the stores. They'd have it back in the back. Now, what it became like blood sport, where people would say that, but they went a step further. They gave you people started creating coupons or whatever it says VIP, and this is before like as much drilled down data's on coupons and stuff. Now, this was a sheet saying this sheet entitles you to early release of, and a guy at Blockbuster who was selling the game, not for, well, okay, here you go. And that's exactly how it happened. Was there any other tricks? I remember that one definitely was the case. I mean, sometimes guys were just ignorant and they didn't know, like it says, well, we got it. Yeah, here, I'll sell it to you. So that was a way in. My son to this day claims, like, he remembers nothing else about my gaming, but he will tell the story to people that because there was a Blockbuster on Research Forest in the Woodlands, Texas, that I drove 90 miles per hour to get there before they closed at like 11 o'clock at night, just so I could get that game. I ended up getting that game the next day. They actually had just closed when I got there. Wow. And yeah, Blevins was in the parking lot with me waiting for it to get. But that did happen. Victor, you got any tales from those days? I mean, from people.
Oh yeah, I mean the best option for us was usually the mom and pop shops. We would
Exactly.
be able to get those. Not the national brands. I mean, you were hard pressed to go to a Best Buy or Walmart or Target or something like that. They weren't going to break the street dates. They didn't want to risk that fine. But, if you had a local video game store, and I say that I never had luck in Louisville, but because of all my connections throughout the country, I'd receive games first directly from EA. But when that kind of fell through and they stopped doing that, because they had to separate themselves from a roster editor, which was me.
Right.
Then I had to reach out and use my other options, which, there was a couple contacts in Denver, Colorado that sent me copies of the game.
That's true.
Of course, Doug was a source. There was a mom and pop shop, some guy named O-Dog from Operation Sports.
Oh yeah.
That he sent me. Yeah, he sent me a copy of the game, and he might have sent Doug a copy. I don't remember how early he got it. I drove up to Florence, Kentucky, which for us is it's about 100. It's 105 miles away from my house. So that's up in northern Kentucky. I drove up there twice and met a guy at the Florence Mall who got a game from Cincinnati and met me in Florence to exchange the game.
It was crazy,
I
man.
drove to Lexington, Kentucky. Well, actually, just south of Lexington in Nicholasville, Kentucky, and met a guy, and he was selling me a copy of the game out of the trunk of his car. It was the shadiest thing ever. I didn't know what I was getting. I mean, I pull up. This guy's got a box of NCAA football 11, I think, at that time. And he's selling these games out of the trunk of his car. And I didn't want to ask no questions. I don't know where he got them, who he got them from. I didn't need to know at that time. The only thing is, I think I met him through, I don't know if it was Craigslist or eBay, or someone might have told me about him on Operation Sports or another site. But anyway, I called the guy, and he's like, yeah. He said, come through. He said, I'll be here at this corner till whatever time it was. And I think I got there like 7:30, 7:45 at night. Me and my wife drove up from Louisville up there with the kids in the car to go get a copy of the game.
Let's go get that damn game.
And
that's incredible.
Yeah, and I get the game early and rush home. I think I played one game because that was usually always my routine. Is I allowed myself to play one game, which was usually, if I wasn't playing a human opponent, it would be Louisville versus Kentucky. That's our rival, so I'm a Louisville fan.
Smart.
So I'd always play that game. And then I'd be disciplined enough that once I completed that game, I would lock in. I call it the lab here, where I would edit the roster.
Yeah, he'd go to work.
And I would go to work. I mean, and once I got in my rhythm, and when it was conducive to putting names in the games with the actually the controller, I could put in the rosters, and at that time it was anywhere from 115 to 120 teams. I could put in the rosters in 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah,
And when I tell you that I got
60
no
players,
sleep, I got no sleep.
Yeah,
Wow.
because
I was working 20, 21 hours a day, putting in rosters, getting just little naps. I would have my TV on and watching, movies and stuff, and just editing rosters, just knocking out like 7, 8 teams an hour.
and people will probably message him when we used to use, the messenger, or they when they would put it on like on the website, or people that would text him, hey, the roster's ready yet? Or roster's ready yet? Hey,
it was nonstop. That would stop me. So I'm quick. I'm trying to give an update.
Blackout.
But it's taking away my rhythm. But I'd be like, hey, I got 5 done. So I started updating them. Every couple hours.
I remember that now
that
too.
was
Now,
time consuming. Yeah, and they'd post it. I heard about it later. People send me. I mean, I still got right now. I went to my Operation Sports and signed in. I hadn't been on that site in 11 years, and I went home there about 2 weeks ago. And my inbox is 99% full from direct messages, where everyone's sending me private messages.
God.
Hey, how far along? I just bought the memory card. When can I expect my memory card? Or when are you going to release rosters? So that's how involved it was. And then we got into the era of social media, so people started posting updates on Twitter. I think for NCAA 14, but it was wild. I mean, if I was doing, what I did back 11 years ago, I'd probably have 100,000, 150,000 followers on Twitter, because it was ridiculous how many people would, download my rosters or send me memory cards.
It's funny, man. You bringing up some of those things that I had completely forgot about happening. It's just like refreshing to bring it all back. And that, dude, it was insane. Everything that people, the extremes that people went to get that game. In fact, it's funny.
Oh, I mean, there was people, I'd always see the post about Jersey. There was people who would sell them in the bodegas and stuff in New York City. So it was always like trying to find out who had the game early. Like you said, they would post those sites. In fact, the guy in Cincinnati, his name was Flight White. I just remembered that. He was an OS member, and he hooked me up twice. And I don't know where he got the games from either, and I don't care to know now. I don't want to hear the stories.
Yeah, I think
he always came up. He was a great source. But yeah, I mean, I never knew. And I mean, there's sometimes I would buy 2 or 3 copies of the game just to make sure I had it early. And, some of them might not come in until the day of release, and then I'd sell it to friends or whatever. But I had to use every avenue I had possible to try to get the game early. And for me, what I was known for is not only accuracy, but I always put out the rosters before anyone else. So it was still competitive. I mean, there was other people who were trying to do what I was doing. And if they would have got the jump on me and got rosters out before I did, that's potential customers, or, I didn't really have customers. It was donations, but people who were using my item, that would have went the alternative route. So I was able to get the game before anyone else for 12 straight years and get my rosters out first. Now, there was one exception, and that was NCAA football 09. I got the game early. Pasta Padre, we downloaded the rosters. Well, that was the year that the teams jumped from 115 up to 120. And as we started editing rosters, we started noticing that teams were disappearing. So there was a glitch in the system because of the memory limitations.
Tell me something that.
I've got a post still on YouTube of the video where you're sitting there and I'm watching this, and I got to like Western Kentucky, and all of a sudden Florida International disappears.
Yeah.
And then, and I didn't know. I was sharing rosters with like Pasta Padre and some other guys, like, hey, I'm going to send you this. You guys look it over, make sure there's no problem. And we got probably about 3 days away from release, and we realized the game is broke. There's no way that you can edit rosters. We're literally breaking the game. It went from 120 teams. I think I got it down to about 105. And then EA caught wind of this.
I remember that now.
I had, I don't know, almost 100,000 views on a video. So EA was seeing, posts on the forums, and now they're watching my video. So the developers call me, and I tell them what's going on, what I'm doing, and I work hand in hand with these guys for 2 weeks before they're able to patch the game. They had to release a critical patch. So the game came out like July 17th that year. We didn't get the rosters updated and fixed until like August 2nd. But there was a workaround that guys were using, which that kind of hampered me that year and handicapped what I was doing. But a lot of people just used those, fixed rosters until mine were released and then everything went on. But yeah, I mean, I've helped EA, and they won't, admit it.
Right.
But because I had access to the game before anyone else, I was able to identify some of the bugs and glitches and stuff like that and give them feedback to help the community. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I mean, regardless if I'd ever, received a dime doing rosters, I was doing this for myself. I'm OCD in that aspect. I cannot play the game until I see the names on the game.
Yeah,
and I can't just do one team. I can't just do my favorite team. I have to do every single team. And I cannot play a game until I had every name on the game. And it's got to be accurate. So, I would purchase Phil Steele's preseason magazines, as well as Athlon Sports. And it got to the point that I wasn't buying just the Athlon Sports National Edition. I was buying their 11 or 12 regional editions. So I had to copy for the SEC, ACC, Pac-12, Pac-10 back then. You name it, I had it. So I was spending hundreds of dollars just in magazines to make sure that my rosters were accurate. And then it got to the point that I had some contacts in athletic departments. And the first was a guy at Mississippi State. And I let him know what I was doing, and he was totally on board with it. And, he not only sent me the spring media guide for Mississippi State Bulldogs, he gave me their credentials to the FWAA website. So I was able to get on there and not only see Mississippi State's rosters and spring media guides and actual media guides for the season, I had access to every team that was in D1 football.
Nice.
So it was a great contact. I still appreciate that guy to this day. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head. But he helped me out tremendously because once I got that access to that site, I can go on there every year and download whatever information I needed to make sure that my rosters were accurate.
So that benefits them,
EA really
right?
did a good job. It benefits them
Yeah,
because that's
recruiting.
like free advertising.
Yeah.
Yes, free advertising.
And it helps recruiting.
Marketing.
Because as a player,
Yeah.
you want to be on the game.
Right.
And, if you can make sure that your team's accurate and you've got all the information and, heck, I know that I'm going to go to this school and they're going to help, promote us.
Yeah.
They're going to do everything they can. And now, even right now, these teams are actually being paid. It came out maybe last week that they have tiered system like 1 to, I think it's 4 tiers. And the teams that have made the most money through the wins and in the playoffs, there's 14 of them. They're in tier 1. Then there's the next group, and they're paying them like $100,000, $80,000, $60,000, whatever, so on and so forth. But so not only are the players getting their NIL deals, but and that's $600 a piece and a copy of the game. Great deal. I mean, it's better than zero.
You're damn
but
right.
the guys who are ambassadors to the game or the cover athletes, they're making a little bit more money, but they have some more obligations. They've got to get on Twitter and social media and promote the game, talk nice about it. But, it also helps their brand, so it goes both ways,
So So does EA run any analytics that shows like which games are more popular and that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, but I mean, they'll know like that.
Now it's all computer, right? So it's all connected to net and stuff.
and they'll know like there's a couple games like like Madden or the college football. There's some that people are just fanatic about, and this is a game, man. People are fanatic about this damn game, and
so they can tell who's picking who and what teams and that.
Oh, I bet they can.
That kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that's.
Oh yeah, they can tell you which teams are getting the most play online. They have different servers. They have of course the online head to head. Then they've got the Dynasty, and then they'll eventually they're going to have Ultimate Team, so they'll know what teams are getting the most play and where
that's cool.
The most fans are at for sure.
What about? I wonder. Did anybody, man, that many years, anybody from the old team that worked on a game part of this game, you think?
Yeah. Ben, the actual developer, the head developer, Ben Hallmiller, has been with this company maybe since 05, might be 04. he's still the lead developer.
Good.
So like
Yeah,
legacy,
so he's
people.
yes, he's legacy. And when the game went away, because they had ideas when 14 came out, which was in 2013, but the last edition of the game, they had an idea and already a checklist, because as soon as this game comes out, these guys are already working toward the next year, the next cycle. So they had their notes in place on what they wanted to work toward and what needed to be fixed, and, ways to fix recruiting, which they've done a phenomenal job. We'll get into that, I'm sure. But they had a checklist on what they wanted. Now, he never dreamed it'd be 11 years before he can get back to, his baby. That's what this is. But, he's worked through it. He had some visions of what he wanted to incorporate in this year's game, and I think he's done a great job. And something else that they've done, though, is, they brought some of the old guys from the old NCAA football series. But they've got some guys who worked on a version of the NCAA 14 game and rebranded it. They were updating it with patches and whatnot, but NCAA football revamped. And they brought those guys who love this game and have kept this game alive for the last 11 years. They're on the staff, coding, helping develop the game, giving them feedback on playbooks and everything. So they've got some really football nerds, and I say that with the most love. These guys are dedicated to this football series. They brought it to life, and they're going to make sure that it carries on the legacy and the great name. Now, Doug during his introduction, he said they brought back EA Sports, NCAA football. Let's walk that back just a little bit. They've rebranded it.
Yeah, what
it's
is
now
it?
known as EA Sports College Football 25.
Yeah.
But everyone knows it's still NCAA football.
Yeah.
Just with a nice coat of paint on it. But, they changed the name up a little bit. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's a good thing, because on these games, you want some people that have worked to develop, that have played the game. You don't want somebody that the only football they know of is playing on a game. So that's what we always worry about as gamers. Like, they'll put some kind of crazy S in there that you just don't want. And there's always a little, like, Victor and I have talked about, like, there's a kicking meter. Like, in other words, I kicked. It didn't matter if I was home or away, you tune out. It's like clear the mechanism, like Kevin Costner in that movie, with For the Love of the Game. You don't hear anything. You really don't. So for them to make the controllers shake and all that, I never have been a fan of that. Now, some people are, but I'm not, because to me, it's not realism, and not at all. But I'm hoping that there used to be at least a way that you could turn that off. So but there's little things here and there that on some of them I think it's really good. Vic, I'm sure you've seen that like with quarterbacks and hot routing, like a quarterback comes up to the line and he wants to change the play up because he sees how the defensive lined up. According to what I read, depending on what year that quarterback is in, he'll be able to do it easier if he's a little bit more seasoned. Is that what you made out of that as well?
That is absolutely correct. And EA, going back first, I'll address your kicking. EA is trying to add a mode. You can't put in our nerves and stuff like that. And that plays a factor. I played both, high-level football as well as, basketball. And like you said, high-level athletes, they're going to be focused, So you do the same thing over and over. It doesn't matter if I went into a place and shot free throws and there's, 10,000 fans there. I don't care what they're doing underneath the basket, waving their hands. You're laser focused on the rim. You're going to do your job. But in those events, though, some of those nerves kick in. You might feel that high pressure. It's the only way that EA can kind of replicate that feel, which is to have the screen shake. Now, to your next point, though, about hot routing and the screen shaking and home field advantage, the older players are going to have it's basically like a composer meter,
Yeah.
So if you're a more veteran, seasoned player, some of that rowdiness from the crowd is not going to affect you as much. And you got to remember, you're not going to have that breakdown in communication, because it's a video game. But in real life situations, you're going to holler at the receiver. He might not get that audible or that check, so that's why they do hand signals and all that other stuff. But even with that, sometimes there's a miscommunication because the quarterback might already done a signal and did the first sign, and the guy didn't get the second sign because he turned around to focus on the corner in front of him who's pressing it. So the way that they've kind of simulated that is with the crowd shaking and all that stuff. And then the other thing you're going to see for quarterbacks who have less composure or freshman quarterbacks, inexperienced, is your icon on the screen will disappear. Like it'll be a question mark. So normally you'd have, the button prompts up there, X, Y, A, B, and an L button or R button, whatever it is. In some situations, you're going to see only 4 icons up there, or 3, depending on who it is. Now, the way that they've offset that, though, and the crowd and your controller shaking and your screen, looking all crazy with the routes shaking and going all kinds of places, is they've added abilities to the game. And, that's another way to kind of cancel some of the effects of the crowd. And the abilities are broken down into 4 different levels, from bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, with platinum being the best. And if you have a senior quarterback who has, one of these 80 abilities, and it's one of the 3 mental abilities, it allows him to keep his composure and execute audibles, call out routes at the, and check with me's at the line of scrimmage, and a way for you to still have some success. Now, even with the icons disappearing, I mean, Doug, you know this. There's only 5 buttons on the controller, and the 2 buttons on the left are always going to be on the left side of the screen, 2 buttons on the right, and the running back's always behind you. So, I mean, if you've been playing this game, a lot of that stuff shouldn't impact you. But for guys who haven't played this game and, are new to it, it's going to be a learning curve as they get adjusted to it and stuff. But the old veterans, the OGs, we've been through this. I mean, they tried to do this stuff 20 years ago.
Yeah, it'll be a little new at first because I played Madden I bought it every damn year, but I probably did not play hardly any at all last year. I played the year before, but yeah, this was a hard punch when they took this game away, man. It hurt. And it's weird that we've come to this point, but that this is where we are. We've finally gotten back. Now, I know the game is releasing on July 19th, isn't that correct?
The release is on July 16th at midnight.
Is that the initial release?
The early release will be July 16th.
Yes. Okay, good. And then the normal release will be on the 19th. I've actually paid for the early release, even though I know right now.
Hello?
Can you hear me again, Vic?
Yes, sir, Doug.
Okay, sorry about that. We can clear all that out later. But
okay.
Yeah, the regular release.
And I think the regular release will be July 19th. That's for everybody. If you have the standard copy, July 19th. The deluxe edition, which gives you 3-day access early, will be midnight, July 16th. Now, my opinion, and don't hold me to this, but I've been doing this long enough to know, so I've got a little bit of experience in this row, is that this game will roll out actually on July 15th at 4 p.m. And the reason why EA will do that is they do not want everyone jumping on the servers at midnight on July 16th and crashing the servers. So
smart move.
They'll have what they call a slow roll. It'll be a slow release. They'll give access throughout the night or throughout the day on the 15th. And so you'll start seeing people. Don't freak out if you're one of the guys with early access. Oh, I can't get on the game. No, they're doing it by region or whatever. They'll give people access throughout the night. And then by midnight, if there's any issues with lag and glitching and servers going down, they'll hope to have all that rectified and have everything in place. Because, this game is one of the most highly anticipated games in a long time. People love Madden. Don't get it wrong, but there's more people who love college football in the South who don't have pro teams, and they've only played Madden for the last 11 years, which is it's weird. Madden's popularity has skyrocketed in the last 11 years while NCAA football was gone. Now they're going to have someone that can compete with them. Now they're never going to probably be at the same level as Madden. College football will be right there though on their heels. And there's going to be a lot of people who will not go back to Madden, or, they'll have Madden but not play it as frequently as they will the college football series.
And yeah, there are people that haven't played video games, period, that are going to come back and play this game. I've already been told that by probably a handful of people, just randomly, and I'm positive that'll happen. It's that big of a deal, and it's going to be weird though opening up a game and you'll have rosters on the game itself. But
yeah, I'll tell you this, man. I've got people coming out of the woodwork who are now, follow me on Twitter. But one of the more unique ones was I had an assistant basketball coach at Marshall University that reached out to me. He followed me and said, "Hey, buddy, when I was in college, I used to download your rosters, and so that was 20 years ago while he was still a student." He said he shared them with all his friends and stuff, but he just wanted to reach out to me and said thank you for all the hard work. And, I've seen more of that. One of the guys from the Colorado Rockies who's in charge of their technology is following me on Twitter. So I reached a lot of different, people in different walks of life. But, to have those guys who actually were 18-year-old freshmen playing NCAA football 20 years ago and now see these guys that are now in these professions, coaching, high-level basketball, or, actually working in upper management with professional baseball teams. It's pretty wild, man, to think that I was at least able to give them some happiness and play a role in this NCAA football journey that they have in their youth.
Yeah,
and now it's coming full circle, though, and now these guys are, in their early 40s, late 30s, early 40s, and they're waiting for the game to come out, and they're tapping into me trying to get information and, when can I get a game early? Where can I go? And it's like, this is crazy. And then, you watch YouTube and this different stuff on Twitter, TikTok, whatever, and there's so many different celebrities who played this game, 10 to 20 years ago, who played Dynasty. And they're already getting their own private leagues and, and talking about this. They're doing podcasts and interviews, and they're going to stay up to date on it, and they're just as excited as we are, So this game reaches a lot of different people, that's for sure.
I'm surprised it didn't go cross generation like everything else has, but maybe that's something they add during the season, or it could be. I'm sure it would be in the future, but I'm not sure if they could add it in. But some games have already added that in while the game was already going on, So it'd be interesting to see, but. It's
So does the timing of the release of the video game affect the actual college games?
No, I
Am
mean,
I missing something there? I don't know.
No. I mean, the college football season won't start until like the last couple of days of August.
Okay.
And the game comes out it's always traditionally come out in July, and
and it's twofold. There's two reasons. The first is they want to get the game out and promote college football 5 weeks early, gives people a chance to get hyped up and excited about it. But the more important part is they don't want to release both college football and Madden simultaneously. So it gives them a chance to make as much money as they can for 3 or 4 weeks before Madden actually drops.
Okay.
That people will get this game, play this game for about a month, and then Madden comes out. So now they've made, more money because there's football diehards that are going to buy both copies of the game. And to be honest, like this year, you can buy the standard edition for $69.99. You can buy just the college football deluxe edition for $99.99. Or the best route is you buy what they call the MVP bundle, and now you get college football 25 deluxe edition as well as Madden 25 deluxe edition, and you get early access to both games. And, you're like, I'm going to pay $30 more just to get the game 3 days early. Yes, you are. But you also get jump started on, if you're in Madden, you get jump started on Ultimate Team because you want to knock out those challenges so that you can start getting cards and building your team. And they have the MCS, which is the Madden, championship for them. You get started on your team early because you got to get your players. In college football, you're trying to get as familiar with the game as you can because they're going to start we'll have some tournaments and leagues. You want to get jump start on your opponents, and the people you're going to be competing against. So, and they love the game. I mean, so yeah, I've already paid my $135 And the reason why it's 135 for me is I'm a member of the EA Play,
Me
so
too.
that gives me a
Yes.
10% discount, which that's even better.
Yeah, that was same for me. I did the same thing, and in fact, we probably would have got it early with EA Play, I think, but I got the early release, which is funny. I'm almost positive I'll be out of state when that when that comes out, but just for the chance that I encountered that I would be home, I made damn sure I had it because
Well, and you'll like this, Doug. So I did the MVP bundle, which means I have digital access to both Madden and college football. But I also I pre-ordered the standard edition, and listen to me, that's why I did it. Walmart has a pre-order sale, and for their standard edition, they have what they call a steelbook, which is just a fancy commemorative case. So now I'm going to have an actual physical copy of the game that'll stay in the wrapping, and I'll never open it up, but that'll
That's
just
cool.
be like a collector's item to go between my college football posters I already have hanging on the wall, which I made myself. So anyway, I mean, that's just, this game's been gone for 11 years. I'd like to have, a hard copy of the game. So I did buy the steelbook version. So I'll have that as well as a token.
Yeah, and we're talking here, but I want to direct people to your site, Victor, to get the details on this game. Tell us the sites you got going on, man, so people can be informed on that.
All right, so you can follow me on Twitter at FAIRDALE Kings. You can also go to YouTube. I'm putting up videos. We'll have later on. We'll have tips and strategy. We'll have reaction videos. We'll put out gaming, game film that we'll break down. We're going to do playbooks and play analysis and stuff like that. Right now, I'm putting out information and content as the different play modes become available, so people are staying up to date there. And then something else I'm doing is I've brought back FAIRDALEKINGS.com, which is FAIRDALE-Kings.com. And I'm going to have some information on that site, reactions. We're also going to keep track of our dynasty mode on that site. So some of the guys I played with in the past, I bought a theme, a WordPress theme that allows me to have standings, schedules, as well as I can create tournament brackets. So like if I host tournaments, I've got a platform that we'll be able to follow that online. And I'm trying to develop an app to go along with that so that, we can follow along where, just like the Madden Championship Series, Mutt, how they play that. They use a third-party site to do stuff like that. So I'm trying to get that developed right now so that you can just get on your phone and put your scores in, and then it'll update on my website, and we can keep track of people as they advance. We'll do some money tournaments. I mean, so EA limits everyone. They've been doing it with Madden for years that, if you host a tournament or something, the most you can charge is $20 per entry fee. So we'll have some tournaments, and we'll have guys, put up $20, and we'll have 32 teams, 64 teams, whatever it is that we can manage to pull off in a weekend. And we'll have multiple tournaments, probably monthly tournaments for at least the first 4 or 5 months after release of this game.
Yeah, man, it's you brought back just memories saying that, just some of the hodgepodge stuff we used to do to have to put our stuff up on standings.
Yeah, you used to do it on your forums. You had your own website back in the day as well.
Yeah.
And then, when that kind of went by the wayside, because we used to go in there and you'd have a post and be like, okay, here's the schedule, and then you would update the score. So if everyone knew that, G Money and Kiamon and Blevins, or even, Doug, the Cajun commish was playing, you're sitting there watching the forums waiting for a score update, and it's like, we're sitting in front of a computer before there was social media and Twitter and, instant access. So we're watching sometimes people's gamer tags to see if they have a score flash across the screen. That's what we did back in the day, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah,
in this era, it's all instantaneous.
And Victor had, I forgot what it was called, the program, because I remember we all had access to it, but I remember Victor had it, was where you could, and I can't remember if I ever did or not, but he had the thing where you could record games. So he has old games that he and I effing played, X amount of years ago on that. I said, So I told him the other day, I said, what are you going to do? Like record or look at my old game film and say, okay, here's his tendencies. It's something he used to do. And that's crazy, man.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that goes back to me being a high school football coach, is that, I would break down game film, and that was what I was kind of notorious for, is I can not say predict plays, but, it gives you a better idea of what teams would like to do in certain situations. So I even took it to, the level of recording my opponents whenever I played them head to head, just in case we might meet up later on in the playoffs or a bowl game, or maybe even season 10 down the road. But yeah, I used to record the games and then post them on YouTube, and I would put up fancy introductions and some credits after the game was over, and kind of give some commentary sometimes during the course of the game. So it was fun for me.
Yeah,
very analytical.
We played season after season. We would play it from the game release until the next game release.
Wow.
Every damn time, I can't wait, because on the game itself, it used to be 30 years you could play, 30 seasons,
and that's what you can play this year. Yeah, you can play this year. Say, for instance, it doesn't matter if it's online dynasty with 32 users, or if you're just playing a dynasty yourself, but you can play 30 years.
Yeah.
An online dynasty, you can have up to, like I said, 32 users. Something that they've added this year is, whenever you go into dynasty, you get to choose one of 3 archetypes. So you can be either a tactician.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
A motivator, or a recruiter. And whichever archetype you pick is going to help, as you go down your path as a coach. Now, you can also hire offensive and defensive coordinators. And then, of course, they can quit, move on to other jobs and better jobs, or you can fire them and replace them with whoever you want. But, it's just an extra detail, and adds more depth to the game. So, like, say, for instance, I'm going to be a motivator, and I might hire another coach who's, 2 other coaches motivators. That means I would max out a motivator. So, I've got all that locked down. I'm going to get all the bonuses and boosts. But another way to approach it is you might be a motivator and get your offensive coordinator to be a tactician, because, he's going to be drawing up the X's and O's and doing all that stuff, and make your defensive coordinator a recruiter. And now you've covered at least a piece of all 3 archetypes, So it's going to be interesting to see what path everyone takes as they approach, coaching in dynasty. And then also, there are what they call different branches. So there's 11 different branches that can go their separate directions during the course of your career. And they've said that even after 30 years, you're not going to be able to max out all the branches, because just like real life, people are going to have strengths and weaknesses.
Yep.
And they want to sit there and display that, because in 14, they tinkered with this idea a little bit. But like after year 2, year 3, you could be maxed out in everything. As long as you sat there and you put in all the points, because it was just point based, and just max it out. And then, at that point, I'm getting all the 5-star recruits, and, you're crushing the competition because you have all the boost. Well, the developers at EA learned their lesson, and now they said, we're not going to allow you to go in and ruin the dynasty experience within 2 or 3 years. We want this to be something that you're going to keep coming back and playing. So that's great. It gives you that spark that you want to keep picking up the sticks and playing. Just like, the one thing they're really hyping up this year, and I keep hearing feedback from, my sources and people who played the game, is that there's a different feel for this game between the top tier athletes, the 5-star players, and the 2-stars. They play different, just like in real life. If you're playing against a 5-star recruit, he might be bigger, stronger, faster, than a 2-star who was lightly recruited out of high school, who doesn't run a 4.2 40, or, can bench 225,
doesn't
30
have the size.
times.
Yeah, that's right.
Doesn't have the size. Those guys work harder and stuff. They run precise routes and, whatnot, but they're not the just star athlete who win the underwear Olympics. When you go to the combine and they have the NFL combine, those guys are out there prancing around in their biker shorts. They don't have that. So they're trying to show that on the field this year. So they said, if you take over, say, for instance, a 1-star San Jose State, it might take you 7 to 10 years before you can build up that team, because you've got to get the players and then build up your schedule to play against top teams. So, in the past, I could take a, 2-star Ohio, and by year 3, I've already won a couple national championships.
Yeah.
They said it's going to be a lot harder to do that, unless you're really playing on a low level. If you're playing on a level All-American or Heisman, the computer is going to be a lot more difficult, and you're going to see that not only on the field, but off the field in recruiting, as you try to build your team up and lead them to the path of glory and win national championships and conference championships.
I wonder if can you play as a coach, or I wonder if they have those modes as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you can go in and sim games, but I don't know the level of extent of like a full blown coach mode. I haven't heard anything about it. But most of these guys that played the game, they all picked up the sticks and they're playing because they want to see all the the dynamic of the game.
Do you think that you could be a head coach at a program, get in a motorcycle accident with a staffer, and then lose your job?
So you're talking about an intern? Yeah. So you're throwing shade at old Louisville coach Bobby Petrino,
and then come back to that same
Texas A&M's offensive coordinator. Yeah, hey, buddy. Let me tell you what.
He's back at that school.
I bring back. People don't want to. Yeah, people don't want to hear it, but we chased Bobby Petrino off here after the year 2. I bring him back. That dude is a coaching genius. He don't have a personality of a rock. His brother did all that, but as far as drawing up plays, there ain't nobody better. I mean, that guy was with the Jaguars for a while. He was there for a blink of an eye with the Falcons when he left Louisville high and dry. I know he went to Arkansas and had a motorcycle gate, with the intern on the back.
God damn it.
Came back to Louisville. We actually, we won a Heisman with Bobby. People, want to stow shade and, forget it. We had that terrible year, but
he
that
did.
year that he was here when they ran him off, the whole time in preseason, everyone's talking about, we got to bring in Jeff Brom. And Jeff Brom turned us down. We ended up with Dan, Satterfield, but, which was a unmitigated disaster. But, Bobby was here and he still had a winning record, even with the 1-11 season he had. There was a ton of talent which allowed Satterfield to win 8 or 9 games his first year here. If you'd have left Bobby alone and let him just coach football, and people forget his father also passed away, and that was his mentor, taught him everything about football. He used to be a former head coach. He had that tragedy in his life going on, and then you got the AD standing on the sideline while you're trying to coach a game. This ain't high school or Pop Warner. What the hell is going on, Louisville? I mean,
I think
forget the fact that we won a Heisman with Lamar Jackson while Bobby was the head coach.
Yeah, that is true, man. It just popped in my head, but I seriously.
Well, you say that first, but they've got Road to Glory. That's a mode, so the student athletes will have NIL opportunities in Road to Glory. Now it's not in Dynasty because they couldn't have, schools paying players. That was a big no-no. They didn't want to have cheating and anything like that. But in the Road to Glory mode, they have what they call branding and NIL. And those individual players have to choose weekly what they're going to focus on. If it's going to be going to class in school time, is it going to be, am I building my brand with my NIL opportunities? And if their grades drop, they could be suspended for a game. So that's a nice little, twist as you go down your path of Road to Glory.
That's a nice touch.
Yeah. Well, so it's not, Bobby on the back of a motorcycle with an intern, but, it still might be a guy, who said, what, I've got this nice little brand over here who's paying me some nice money. I got to go do a photo shoot. Well, yeah, but you also missed your final in your biology class,
Yeah.
So you're in L this week.
We got to, we had you on this one, but I want to have you back on again, and maybe right before the game comes out again, before on this topic, and we can brush up on a little bit of the things that are going to be, I guess, new coming out. But yeah, let's do that again, man. Before.
Oh yeah, I mean I can sit there and talk about the Dynasty mode for an hour.
Yeah, we both can. Yeah, that's not going to be a problem.
There's so much stuff that they added. EA's prided themselves. They want this game to feel different, and from all the videos, it does look that way. There's going to be 134 different playbooks. All these teams have their own traditions and entrances to the game, which gives that nice personal feel to these schools. The passing mechanics have been revamped. That's a whole thing in and of itself. They've got what they call the was it Campus IQ, which that is in turn of home field advantage and all that wrapped in it, how it affects gameplay. There's a lot of different things to discuss. There's the wear and tear system, which I don't know if you saw this. If your running back breaks a 75-yard run, they're going to be a little bit tired. Do you sub him out? And then if he keeps getting big, hit with big hits.
Oh yeah, I saw
his
that.
body's going to wear down on him. You keep cutting out his legs. It can. If he takes another big hit to the legs, he might get injured. So it's kind of like, how do you juggle, your depth chart and make sure that you're optimizing your most skilled players, but you also can't sit here and and run him like a rented mule, and give him the ball 35 times and never throw the ball.
I see that.
Those guys like you that just run fullback dive over and over and over.
Yeah, that's right. I wondered if they could have like where you could set a rotation. That would be great. Because remember, in our day, we said you had to call a timeout to make changes.
Well, that's the thing is that if you're not going to be running no huddle, you're going to have a chance because you can always go into your like universal settings, even individual formation.
Oh, that's right. You could do that. Take that out. I forgot about that. You're right.
Yeah. So you can do that. There's a couple ways that your guys can kind of recover. Now they'll never get back to 100%. If they're in the fourth quarter, they can gain some of that stamina and some of that health back, by you subbing them out. But they'll never be back at 100% in the fourth quarter. They'll be fighting through it, maybe 95%, 85%, whatever. But you can either call timeouts, halftime will give you a boost in between quarters, and then, the other thing is substitute, bring in your second stringer, third stringer. Or what I would do is, if I might have a guy who's a situational player in shotgun that, he's always my third down back. So that gets my guy off the field on third down situations, and maybe have a couple formations that you put your backup running back in, if you're playing the I. So, he's getting those carries if I'm in like two tight end, and you can do that, so that's different ways to kind of get around it. There's a means to do it, but I just hope that it's not OP, that they don't overdo it and take it, where it's not as fun because.
Yeah. Remember, big changes is, don't do too big of changes because it gets crazy sometimes, but let's do that. Let's leave it at that today, and let's come back again before the release, and let's drop another episode because I think we can keep going on this one, baby. I mean, we both love it, and plus there'll be some updates too, and I want you to fill everybody in on that. So let's do that again, and once again, that's Fairdale Kings. Is that Fairdale?
I'll send you. Do you guys put it on YouTube?
Yeah,
we'll put links up if you want to do that too. But it's at Twitter, it's at Fairdale Kings, and then also if you go to YouTube, it's at Fairdale Kings. And once I get some live videos and stuff, I'm also going to be on Twitch, and that's at Fairdale Kings TV on Twitch. And then my website is Fairdale-Kings.com. Yeah, because someone in Japan owns the Fairdale Kings name. I don't know why, but they've owned that name for about 20 years. So I guess whenever I trademarked my name, they jumped on it before I could buy the site.
Yeah, they did.
Oddly enough.
But don't worry, we will share the hell out of it. And like I said, we will visit again before the release. Vic, thanks for joining us today, man.
Oh, no doubt. You guys have a good week, and I look forward to talking to you again about college football because I love this game, and I know we can talk about this all night if you gave me the opportunity.
All night, buddy. All night. All right, you've been listening to the Nonsense Chronicles. Please like and subscribe.
Later.